No, want to shift now to another major issue, very similar to Greece. We're talking Puerto Rico. They're meeting with their creditors today, 3 p.m. Eastern time. This is a huge, huge dilemma. Many people think is actually more threatening to the United States than even the Greek situation. To former President of Peru, Alejandro Toledo, on if we have another Greece in our hands. And now, President, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Very similar situation. Listen, my wife is Puerto Rican. I've been to Puerto Rico, and I know a lot of Puerto Rican people, and even they will admit that, in Puerto Rico, people live in nice homes, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments, sometimes gated communities, and pay $20 a month. They've had it pretty good for a long time, and now they owe $70 billion. Do they have the wherewithal to get themselves out of this hole?
Well, if there is anything that Latin American, including Puerto Rican, have learned, is to put the house in order economically. Now, we cannot repeat what happened in 2008 and 2009 because we're still paying the tab worldwide. In contrast with Greece, Puerto Rican cannot default.
Although they're working on that in Congress, maybe they might be able to. To your point, though, right now they can't.
No, I don't think they can. They're part of the United States. Sure. But discipline is very important. They need to have sustained economic growth and sustainable discipline. Otherwise, the adverse impact is going to spread all over the region.
How do you get discipline, though, when you haven't had to have it for a long time? 70% of the people on the island are housing assistance, a lot of welfare, food stamps, and even with that, crime has gone through the roof. How do you change that mentality overnight?
Well, to be very candid, education. 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 And number 3, institutions that work. Because if there is not a strong democratic institutions that are accountable, then you can play too easily on the beach, too cheap, and relied only on the United States.
To your country, Peru, you had an economic miracle that people point to that's really could be a model for a whole lot of other countries. How did Peru go from an economy that wasn't doing anything to one of these super sizzling economies? How did that happen?
When I became a president in 2001, the economy was in recession, -3, and 15% inflation and fiscal deficit and no reserves in the central bank. We had no choice.
No choice. Is that ultimately you have your back is against the wall, you've got to do it, do or die?
Well,
but you still need leadership, though.
In my case, I had no choice. I was sentenced not to fail for 2 reasons. Number 1, I was the first Andean president who was democratically elected in 500 years in South America. Mm-hmm. So if I will fail, my people will fail.
Right.
Discipline. And fortunately, that's my profession. I'm an economist. I decided that I could not play the populism of giving fish away instead of giving people the right to learn how to fish.
I got to tell you, I love that. By the way, that's your book, The Shared Society. Want everyone to know about that. We've got to go now, but an economist who preaches discipline, I think that's what all economies need. A lot of them around the world right now praying for something like that. Thank you very much for your time, President.
Thank you so much for the invitation.